In today's fast-paced world where demands are constantly increasing and expectations are higher than ever, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stuck, or unsure about how to reach your full potential. But fear not, this podcast is specifically designed to equip you with the mindset, strategies, and insights needed to excel in every area of your life. Together, we're going to unlock the secrets of high performance and embark on a transformational journey towards living our best life. Let's dive in. We've got Josh, and we met on Facebook. I've been liking your content. I've been really enjoying it. And you've also got your own podcast. You've got all this stuff you're doing in real estate. So I like to start off with one question, and especially with entrepreneurs, people in real estate like we are, the question is, what do you tell people when they ask you, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Josh Appleman. Alex, I appreciate you having me on today. What I do for a living now is real estate. Multifamily is what we primarily focus on, and self-storage. We like real estate or really entities that produce passive cash flow. Low requirements for employees and can still generate income without a ton of management overhead. Multifamily real estate can produce that as well as self-storage. So we like the components, of course, making sure that we're in the right areas, doing the right size units, right markets, right drivers. I own Appleman Properties, which is Appleman Group, and we're a progressive real estate firm. We just acquired another 40-unit multifamily property in Dayton, Ohio. We look for value-add properties that we can go in and renovate, add value to the tenants, to the residents, and essentially get market rate rent where it needs to be and take it from there.
That's awesome. Now, that's a lot of standard stuff that a lot of us are doing in real estate. So let's back up and talk about, how did you even get started in this? Did you have a different career before real estate?
Yeah, I started a company called United Installs back in 2012. We grew the company up to around 10.5 million per year. We were doing flooring installations for a large box store. I had 9 different locations, 52 employees, 200 plus contractors out every day. So it was a lot of exciting times, a lot of great times, a lot of growth. We were on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list 5 years in a row. We did a lot. We did a lot in a short period of time. And essentially, it was on the back of a corporate conglomerate. And if that corporate conglomerate wants to make a change, you really don't have too many options but to make the change with them, whether you agree with it or not. So after our territory essentially was taken over by another much larger company, it made me want to get into something that somebody can't just come in and change things on me. After you put your heart, effort, and energy into building something like it's your baby, you want to make sure that you can keep it for years to come. That's what made me get into real estate. Multifamily real estate, it's bricks and mortar. You can buy it and improve the living quality of your residents, and somebody can't just come along and essentially change your business model.
Oh, for sure. Let's go back and talk about that job for a little bit. It wasn't a job, it was your own company. Did you ever have a W-2 regular kind of job?
So I've never actually had a job working for someone else.
I knew it.
It's always been on a 1099 performance base, and where I essentially write my own paycheck. And it's not always, you learn along the way and you get better. It's extremely tough. It's not made for everyone. There's ups and downs. It's an emotional roller coaster. That's the way of the entrepreneur. But you have the flexibility to be able to create things that didn't exist before and give opportunities to people that may be searching in their life for the opportunity that you can present. It's incredible to position yourself in a different capacity. At the same time, it's risk versus reward. So
let's go back to whenever you started that company. So this is a flooring company, and you're hooked onto a major conglomerate, like you said. So you have steady business. You just booking. Talk to us about, let's talk about mistakes. Let's talk about when you started that company, the way you set it up, the way you ran it. What did you do wrong? What were the things that you could have set up better and that you think would have kept you in that business longer?
So it wasn't relying on one account out of the gates. We had it was healthy. It was very diverse, many accounts. We were business to business, and then we got into in sales, selling our own customers with flooring. We had great accounts. It was one company, one major company looked at us. They loved the technology that I was putting into place, the CRM. They loved the automation, the workflow, the ability for customers to self-service as far as scheduling and maybe maintenance requests. So we emphasized heavily on technology, and a company really liked what we were doing. So it was there was a crossroads. It was keep grinding out new accounts, dealing with smaller companies, or focus solely on making one account, making it very, very successful, and be able to rapidly grow. And that was a mistake that I will never make again, because a company should not ever rely on one account, one source, because essentially you become an employee for that company when you are a company. If there's a listener out there right now and your biggest customer is your only customer, you are making a huge mistake. You need to go ahead and get out there and get other accounts. Your largest account shouldn't make up more than 30% of your gross revenue. That is a mistake. At the time, it was the best decision we could have made, because we were able to heavily implement focus and initiative on making that account extremely efficient, from workflows, from intaking POs to self-scheduling, to dispatch, installation crews. It was a decision that was really great at the time, and it implemented heavy growth. But at the same time, it was also what ultimately the fate was dependent on one company. So they said, hey, look, we like this other company. They're much bigger. They're 250 stores more than you are. You can either sell the territory, or they're going to come in here and take the territory. So it was not even bittersweet, because there wasn't even another option. It was take what's on the table or move on. And it's just it's a learning lesson. It was at the time, it was just what we should have done. At the same time, it's a bad move. I will never do it again. In multifamily, it doesn't happen like that. It just doesn't. Or real estate in general. It's it was a large chapter of my life. 7, 8 years. It's an exciting part of my life. I was in my 30s, my early 30s. So it was great. But at the same time, now we're in Q2. Q2 is I'm priming the pump for Q3, and at Q2 right now is all real estate. That's all it's going to be, heavily focused on real estate.
Very good. I want to move on to the real estate in a minute, but I want to stick with that time period whenever you started this company. And this is the High Performers Podcast, so I like to really get into mindsets as much as possible. So let's talk about when you were starting that business, when you were founding it, all that stuff we just talked about the way that it got set up, the way that you wound up with one larger customer and how that was an issue later on down the road. Tell me about the mindset that let you get into that. You mentioned it already, you wanted to scale, but what about the mindset that, I don't want to say forced you, but kind of pushed you in that direction of, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to take this one big customer. And then also the mindset that you used to switch out of that.
It wasn't a mindset. It was more of an opportunity. So it was at the time we had multiple good accounts, but they were good. And when you're in small business, with any business, and you're transacting on a B2B level, you've always got your accounts payable and your accounts receivable. And if your accounts receivable are relying on your mom and pops to constantly pay, or constantly hounding for payments for this, it becomes noise. So now you start seeing one account, their accounts receivable it keeps going up, and you're constantly with this account. It was just constant revenue. It was consistent, constant, and reliable. Okay, so it was an opportunity to focus on growth, and growth equals cash flow. You need both to survive. It's a balance. You need cash flow coming in order to grow. If it's out of balance, your company might die. But it was an opportunity that was a great opportunity, because we had the ingredients that they had not seen from a company that was in the flooring business, as far as heavy on technology. very organized, very customer oriented, with surveys at the end of every installation, making sure that that everything was a great experience for the customer. We emphasized on things that we should be emphasizing on, and that was transactional business, meaning that every day you're essentially out of business until your transactions come back in. And transactions would keep coming in, but transactional businesses rely on new customers. So it was an opportunity to ride the coattail of a large company. We did very well. We did very well for a long period of time, and they would not have allowed us to grow as fast or as big as we did if we weren't doing it right. Just other companies were doing it. We're doing it much longer than we were, and we're much bigger. And there was a time where this corporate conglomerate, there was a management takeover. So they essentially put a lot of management from another big box firm on retainer. So when they started bringing over these the new management, that's when we've seen a lot of changes happen. But as far as mindset, I've always went out and got it. I've always went out and hustled and hustled and hustled, and I still do today. Everything that I do is a hustle, whether it's night or day. Your mind constantly goes, like yours does. What is
That's right.
and
that's the name of your podcast too, right?
It is, yeah, Real Estate Hustlers. It's because that to me is the entrepreneur spirit, is a hustler. It's whether you're in real estate, whether you're in e-com, whether you're in Florida, you're hustling if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur. And if not, somebody will take that from you happily. Somebody's willing to take someone else's problem. And that's where you've got to constantly outplay the game. Somebody else is willing to take it from you.
For sure. Okay, now let's move into everything that you learned from that business. How have you taken that and moved it over into real estate and what you're doing now?
Getting into real estate was it was a decision, but it was a decision that I did not know. I didn't understand real estate investing. I didn't understand how it all worked, connecting the dots. I actually went into to get my realtor license, but I didn't want to be a realtor. I wanted to learn the language, learn the nuances, learn the code. And my first path was going to real. It was online. You can look it up. These schools are all online. You can just. I was doing it at nights, just when I had time to learn language. So, first getting into real estate, I needed to learn the game. I needed to learn what it was, but I knew that real estate investing, 90% of all millionaires became millionaires because of real estate, and I knew bricks and mortar. Obviously, it's solid. It's somebody can't just come and make a change and take it away. So getting into real estate was a great decision. I just needed to get in. I needed to learn it, and watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts like these. My big mind shift for real estate, and I remember this. It was like everyone else's almost out there, was Rich Dad Poor Dad's book. When I listened to Audible on all my books, and when I listened to that, I listened 3 or 4 times like I do, and I keep listening. That was a mind shift of real estate's the thing. Real estate's it. Learning the just the nuggets in that book. That's when it happened.
Yeah, I believe it. So many people that I talk to, like I hear it every single day. Somebody saying, "Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad." Now, I actually didn't read. I'll share this with you. I didn't read that until I was way into my real estate career, and I had a fabulous mentor that actually took me under his wing and taught me amazing, like way higher level stuff than you should be learning at the beginning. But it forced my brain to get way up there. So by the time I read Robert Kiyosaki, I was like, "Doesn't everybody know this? This is the basics." Oh, yeah. But it's really good to start with. It's a really good foundation. Yeah. So how about some other books? And you can talk about podcast books, influencers, whoever that you like. But let's talk about some of the people or the books that influence you now, that you keep feeding yourself with now.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, of course, but there's The Richest Man in Babylon. That's a Think and Grow Rich is another. Think and Grow Rich, I don't think you understand it at all the third time you listen to it. You've got to listen to it for the fourth time, you start connecting dots, fifth time. And then when you start getting experiences and then you re-listen to these books, now the dots are connecting even more. Especially Rich Dad, Poor Dad, manifesting, affirmations, writing down goals. I didn't write down a goal until I think that I was like late 30s. I didn't even understand, because I would just go out and get it. I would see it in my head. If you can see it in your head, you can have it in your hand. But when you start writing down your goals and you start writing down targets and destinations, and then you take that 12-month target and you put it into a quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily target, things start happening. You start seeing yourself going where you truly want to be in your head. It's the practice of clarity is, to me, the ultra way of becoming who you are and where you want to go. If you just write it down, it is so hard to get your thoughts on paper and actually write down what you truly are looking for until you actually do it. And you're like, damn, wow, all right, now this makes sense. This is cool. Now I know my purpose. And when I started doing that, it opens up your eyes.
Yeah,
Changes
for sure.
things.
I think a lot of people, and I've had this, and tell me if you've had this too. I didn't write down goals for a lot of time because then I have an end. I have a finish. If I don't hit that, then it's a failure. And if I never write it down, and if I never set a number or a date or a time or something specific, then I can never lose. I can never fail because there's never any mark to hit. And so that was a big problem for me, saying, okay, well, I'm just going to set these whether I hit them or not, and I'm going to set them and go for them. And that was a big change for me. Did you ever have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, she's a ton of targets that I don't hit. They just, they're put in there for a reason. Whether I hit them when I want to or not, it's ironic. I keep everything's in. I have an app for everything, it seems like, but I know where everything's at. So I'll reflect back on targets that I made 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I'm like, damn, all right, this happened. It didn't happen when I wanted it to happen, but it did finally end up happening. My mind maybe not have been there at the time it needed to be done, or the people I was around, the groups that I'm in, and not that the people that I was around was the wrong people, but they're not necessarily the people that are doing the things that you want to do in the future, in your future self. And that's the importance of surrounding yourself with people, like-minded people. If you want to be a flooring installer, you're going to surround yourself with flooring installers. If you want to be a multifamily real estate mogul, you should surround yourself with other multifamily real estate moguls. It's just getting into the right room and becoming that person that you want yourself to be. And I say flooring installer because United Installs is flooring installation, but the importance of putting yourself in a room and hitting those targets, you're not going to. It can be disappointing, it can be frustrating if you don't hit them, but the fact that you're writing them down separates you from 90% of the other people too.
More like 99%, I bet.
Or 99, yeah.
Most folks just don't do it. So let's talk about those rooms. How do you personally? I do a lot of this networking, getting in the rooms, capital raise. How do you get in the room?
Networking, talking to people like yourself, we're in a room right now, me and you are. We're in a Zoom room.
That's right.
It's putting yourself out there. You've got to put yourself out there. I have never I've always been very private, a very private person. Before real estate, you'd never see me post on social media. I wasn't out there, didn't care for it, didn't want anything to do with it. And social media is a tool that entrepreneurs should be using if you're not using. If you're using it to fear scroll or to scroll through and find out what other people are doing, you're using social media the wrong way. Or you're using it as a consumer. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're pumping the content out to let others know exactly what you're doing. You're also searching for your avatar. What are you looking for? Who are you looking for? And how are you going to bring them into to your ecosystem? And that's social media. That is pumping it out and letting other people know what you're doing. Being obscurity in a business is I find that as it equals death, correct? Because before, business to business was all I focused on. Doing behind the scenes, being the the force to reckon with behind the scenes for making other accounts look good. So I didn't need to advertise, didn't want to advertise. I wanted to focus just on just operations, getting the customers completed. And now it's front running where you've got to be out there. You've got to be vulnerable, put your content out, whether people like it or not, or agree with it or not, you're pumping it out and letting people know what you're doing.
For sure. Let's talk more about the broadcasting versus consuming of social media, because this has been a humongous change for me. I'll tell you part of my story. I went about 8 years. I just got off of all social media completely. I had nothing. And then whenever I started back up, I didn't want to consume. I just started only broadcasting and then looking for my avatar. So I started looking at it as work instead of it being social. But here's the really interesting part that I didn't realize was going to happen. Now that I look at it as work, I wind up with more social like this, because we're also social. So not just the work part, but focusing on the work part seemed to connect me to other people. And now I have a social group. I didn't have a social group before. And now I do have that social group, not just online, but in person with people. Can you talk about that any, as far as like broadcasting? Because I don't consume. I don't sit there and look through it. I'll like glance through real quick and see if there's other investors that are saying something interesting. But 3 to 5 minutes and I'm done. It's all about putting out content and then communicating with the people that respond to the content. That's how I approach it. How do you approach it?
Well, and I say consuming because there's an algorithm, and once you're on there for X amount of time, you're stuck in the algorithm. It's a subliminal. These big tech companies know exactly what's going to keep you scrolling, and you want to see what's the next. And if you're disciplined enough to break the scroll and get off the social at that time, that's what keeps you. That's what keeps you distracted is a scrolling. If you're using it as a tool to create and build your network, like me and you do. And don't get me wrong, I get stuck in the algorithm too. They're very, very good.
What, you mean you're not Jesus Christ and you're just 100% perfect?
They I don't know what kind of signal or the vibrations they're sending out on these apps, but they want to keep everyone distracted. But using the social media to connect with people that are in the same circle that you're in, that are doing. You're in real estate, I'm in real estate, we're talking to each other about personal life events, but ultimately we're here because we love real estate. Social media is a great connector of people who have like-minded interests. It's we live on total opposite ends of the spectrum, but we're here because of social media. So it's a great tool to use and connect with potential partners or potential just getting in a room and mastermind and talk through what's happening in your world in real estate. What are you seeing come down the market? What's the outlook? It's just, and that's a mastermind at its finest, getting a like-minded group of people together and talking things through, and the other end might come out with a different way of doing business.
Yeah, and the mastermind, getting back to you got Think and Grow Rich. I call it the law of success in 16 lessons. So that mastermind idea came out and it was really specific. Napoleon Hill wrote it very, very specific. And nowadays it's a little bit different. Since you've listened to it so much, can you talk a little bit about the original mastermind? It sounds like you kind of have a good idea of it.
But the original, the mastermind is truly getting people in a room that are not necessarily ahead of you, but that have different skill sets than you have and can bring different angles. And as you talk to people through an issue or through maybe a huge business decision, people are going to give you different perspectives in a mastermind that can alter the decision. It could be the right decision, it could be the wrong decision, but ultimately a decision was based off of other people's collective intake. And even today, any this large decision that I make, I will take happily multiple perspectives. And there's no reason not to. If you're just making decisions based on what your own personal thoughts are, I guess you're going to be right 100% of the time according to yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
But it doesn't make the decision right. So a mastermind is getting a group of people together that have expertise in different facets of maybe a specific niche.
Are you in any masterminds currently?
I'm in a couple. I'm in a couple that I don't show up enough because I keep myself in the weeds on a lot of other things. But I need consistency is everything too. Being able to consistently show up so that they can rely on you being there just as much as you want to rely on them to be there when you need to be. But great groups. I mean, that's what gets you ahead. If you can pay the price, open the door. There's free groups out there that are that are great too. When everyone in that group though is paid the price and continues to pay the price to be in that room, it makes it more exclusive and more worthwhile. At the time, everyone always looks at the price of everything, but once you've made a decision to buy yourself in the door, you're essentially investing in yourself.
That's right. Can you talk about what being in masterminds has done for your business?
Every time that I've joined a mastermind, I have advanced to another level. It's just the way. It's just, even if it's just a small nugget on something that I'm doing different now than I wasn't doing before. When you're in personal development, it can't ever be taken away from you. So masterminds can give you access to information that you might not have had, or other people, the way that they speak and talk and do things can change maybe the way that you do things in your current operation, or underwriting, or deal analysis, or finding deals, or talking to brokers, or any other businesses. But there's masterminds for every niche out there. But that's getting in the room, and now you become maybe a niche expert, and success will show through.
That's right. So did you join a mastermind whenever you moved into multifamily?
Not at first. Consuming a ton of content, learning language. I've reached out to quite a few people. I didn't even know what to ask for reaching out. I wanted a mentor, wanted a coach, but I'm not even sure how to ask these people because I didn't even know what I wanted. I just wanted to learn real estate investing. What is a cap rate? What is IRR? What is DSCR? All these acronyms, and it's no one can. I think you've got to search. The teacher will appear when the student's ready, and you've got to get out. You've got to consume information on your own terms before you go in front of somebody else, in my opinion, asking them to, well, they can teach you, but maybe everyone's got a different way of learning, whether you're listening to it, whether you're watching it, whether you're being instructed. I think that if you spend your time and get educated first through podcasts, through YouTube videos, because the content's out there. If you want to see it, it's out there right now. If you educate yourself, start talking the language and understand it, that will advance you on your own. And then you join a mastermind, and now you can level up from there.
Yeah, because you want to have some value to bring to the mastermind. Also, you come in just completely newbie with zero experience, zero knowledge, and you don't even know the language. You kind of drag down. It's kind of like the bell curve, right?
Well, you'll feel like the odd guy out because you're not understanding really what's happening around you. So I think it will devalue your experience.
Yeah.
I think it would frustrate you, and ultimately, whenever we become frustrated or intimidated, we usually retreat when we should be challenging ourselves forward. But if you know the basics, you know the foundational elements, and you're there to just intake information, then that could work as well. Just intake it and soak it up like a sponge. You might not understand it, which might make it devalued to be in a mastermind at a certain point.
Yeah, for sure. I was in a mastermind. It wasn't exactly a mastermind. It was a seminar, but it was pretty much the same thing. And it was way over my head. I didn't even understand a lot of the things I learned for like 2 more years after that. So it did kind of like push me to go learn a whole bunch of stuff, but it was devalued for sure from what I should have gotten out of it. So definitely staying in, you only want to be like 1 or 2 steps above you. You go start getting in a room with people that are 10 steps above you, and you're going to start having like imposter syndrome. You'll probably have imposter syndrome even if they're only 1 or 2, even if they're below you. A lot of times I have imposter syndrome with people that don't know anything or do anything, so that's definitely something. Actually, let's talk about that. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Has that ever been an issue for you?
Yeah, I've put myself in rooms I've always, goes back to hustling. You have to put yourself out there. You have to put yourself in rooms. And if you're not scared of what other people think, which ask my wife, she doesn't like it, but I don't care what other people think necessarily of my beliefs. I'm not going to put all this stuff out there that's, I'm not going to push things on people, but at the same time, there's a herd mentality that people need to act like the other people. And that's not always what people should be doing, whether it's 100 people running in the same direction and you just want to kind of sit back and see what they're running towards, or a decision that that's made. I've always put myself in a position to where I'm not relying on others to make decision for me. So I put myself as the imposter, and I'm okay with that, because I'm learning and I'm seeing, I'm absorbing, and I'm acknowledging. It's not a bad thing. Being an imposter is not a bad thing, as long as you have, I guess, a purpose of being there and you're just observing and soaking up the information, I guess. But I think it's more of being of value to yourself as well. Like you had said, if you're in a room with people that are 4, 5, 6 levels ahead of you, you're not doing yourself any justice by being there at that point in time, because it's just, the information's irrelevant. You couldn't do anything with it. You're absorbing the information, but you can't take action on the information you've got to, it's connecting the dots all the way up. One thing leads to another. Just like debt, your cap rate is in direct correlation with your interest rate. That connects a dot. You know that if your interest rate is 6.5 and your cap is 5, you're at a negative leverage. Those are the things that you've got to get to a certain point, and now you're not being outsmarted by the guys that are selling you the deal. That's the whole thing of being in the right room, getting the information, learning for yourself, and actually soaking it in. And there's a lot of things we want to rush through and get the learning done, and not fully absorb the information. But if you take time and just listen to it, maybe write it down, maybe even try to teach yourself, you'll learn more. It might take longer, but it might be a shorter journey, because you're actually learning the substance too.
Yeah.
I think I went off on a tangent there.
That's fine. You're allowed to do that. Let's talk about whenever you moved into multifamily, whenever you really got started. How about you tell us your first deal, your very first deal? How did it go? Good, bad? What happened?
So I fear everything. So I am a true believer in the paranoid will survive. And I've always been paranoid, very paranoid. And I put myself into analysis paralysis before I even made it. I was renting a house. We built this office before I actually owned my first house. I was late 30s, because you're building a business, you're building a company, and I never took the time to actually fall back and build my personal life with my family until later on. But my first deal wasn't even a single family house. It was a 33 unit apartment complex. And that's because I learned all of this information before taking action. And I finally took action. I spent $1,600 on a Saturday to get into the room. And after that Saturday, it was probably a month later is when I put the 33 unit under contract. But that was a turning point. That one Saturday in a mastermind event, $1,600 gave me the mindset that I needed to go and put a 33 unit apartment complex under contract.
Man, that is amazing. What would you say that happened during that mastermind? Was there a mind shift? What happened during that mastermind that made that difference?
It was the economies of scale. Economies of scale. 4 doors don't work. 1 door doesn't certainly work. 4 doors, you've got 1 vacancy, you're 75% occupied. It was, I think there's an equilibrium depending on rent income and your expenses. Like 16 units, it can turn cash flow positive with your property management put in. But it was a mind shift that I was focusing on anything and everything, which was getting me nowhere. And once I got out of there, it was just apartment complexes. And I mean, like 2 months later, it was there. It was a mind shift that I needed bigger. I needed it bigger if I was going to do this. And once I made that decision, is when a manifestation came. I guess I don't. It's almost like if you're seeing it, it will come. But you've gotta know what you're looking for too.
Yeah. So talk about the economies of scale, because that's a really technical part that a lot of people miss over. That is a huge deal as far as net margin and your gross margin and how you increase the income over the COGS. So can you talk about some of that, some of those details? Sounds like you really know a lot about how this works.
Well, it's economies of scale is supply and demand too. So the more supply you have, the more demand, or vice versa, demand you need. When you can consolidate expenses under fewer roofs, meaning you've got 8 units under one roof or 16 units under 2 roofs or 32, you've got economies of scale at that point. You've sent a technician out for 2 issues, not just one on a single family house. You're replacing one roof on eight units versus one roof on 1 unit. You're in business. You've got your expenses, you've got your income, but at the top, you've got this little bit of cream, and that little bit of cream is yours. That's what you take home. So when you have 33 units producing revenue, producing expenses, and combined, they're producing this little bit of cream at the top. You have a better chance to succeed. That little bit of cream is yours to keep. On a single family house, that little bit of cream might not be there every month.
And whenever it disappears, it takes away your cream and your debt for probably months.
One move out could cost you $4 or $5 grand, just depending, even more, I'm sure. Or one sewage backup, or the wrong tenant going in there, just destroying your property, and then all of your profits gone. Yeah, you still get your appreciation, you get your depreciation, your debt pay down, all this good stuff, but we're doing it for cash flow. When you're in the second quarter of your life, everything you do should be for cash flow and for future assets. You've got to be in. It's an accumulation phase. You accumulate in your second quarter. You're accumulating, but you have to have cash flow to get there. You don't. Appreciation will come. Buy for cash flow though. Buy for that solves today's problem, and you're preparing for future.
Oh man, you are right on track with that one. A lot of people, I'll just go into my industry. A lot of people that I deal with, they want to build their own RV park because they found this piece of land that's cheap, or they found an RV park that's worth, I mean, they can buy it for like 300 or 500, 600,000 bucks, but it's only got like 20 spots. And there's all this stuff that I work with people on as far as you've got to get bigger than this. And their mindset is, well, I can't afford bigger than this. You're right. Let's put together a team and we can afford this. And you're going to get a half of a watermelon and you're just going to get your half, or you can have an entire grape. If you want to take your grape, then you get the whole thing. But if you want to get a watermelon, you got to share it with everybody. So that's one of the big things I try to pass on to people is you've got to get with a team. You got to do bigger deals and stay in, it feels safe to stay with smaller deals. I can afford this. I can do this. And those smaller deals are the ones where people wind up with a job, Say 20 RV spots, and I'm sure it's the same with multifamily. There's probably a number. But if you only have 16 to 20 RV spots, you're going to make maybe $70,000, $80,000 a year, but you're going to work 40 to 80 hours a week. And you're going to have to live on site, and you're probably going to have to mow the grass yourself, and you're going to have to fix the sewer yourself because you just don't have enough income to go pay a plumber to come do it. Not even going to be able to pay for the landscaping. So a lot of people get that confused. They think, oh, I want to be free and this is something I can do. And I don't want to be tied to some investors and I don't want to be tied to some bank. I want to do it myself. Well, they create their own prison by trying to be free. Have you seen that any in multifamily as well?
Oh, 100%. Sorry, my phone is you're buying yourself a job. It's just like buying a franchise, and the franchise will not let you hire anybody in front of you. You're buying yourself a job. Yeah, you're out of the employment prison, but you're also now you're in self-employed prison. You can't go on vacation. You can't do anything because you're worried that the donut shop's going to fail. it just doesn't work. And it's the same with multifamily. If you have a leak spring when you're out of town, enjoying your vacation on the beach, sipping on a strawberry daiquiri, and you have a leak call in, now what do you do? Now you got to call somebody. You got to do that. It's economies of scale, and it doesn't mean don't go out there and buy an 8-unit. Don't go out there and buy a 4-unit. Start with some house hack. If I could go back in time, I would move my family into a 4-plex and start there. But get the experience. Get the experience while experience will outperform really anything out there. I mean, if somebody went to college and is this and that, but this other guy has experience and didn't go to college, I'll take the guy with the experience.
Yeah.
That experience, as long as it was a fruitful experience and it made sense, I'll take that guy over the degree, because that getting that experience, getting the hands-on is the safer bet. You now know what not to do. The guy with the paper, it doesn't just knows what the books are telling him and what the lectures are telling him. So go out there and get in the game at any capacity. And in real estate, as long as you buy right, buy for today. It's extremely resilient and forgiving, real estate is. And especially if it only holds a personal value, not even a market value, meaning that if you're going to go into a 4-plex to live in a 4-plex, who cares about the market value? You're going there to live there. I don't care if the economy tanks and you get a 40% bump. Who cares? You're there for your own well-being. You're there to live. It holds a personal value. But get the experience. Go out and do it. Economies of scale, the bigger you can go, the safer it is if you're not going to live there on your own. And if you do it with a group of people, now you get different perspectives and personalities. And as long as everyone works in harmony and everyone respects everyone's opinions, it works great. It does. And it's a safer bet. Economies of scale is especially in multifamily, really in any business, you have to have economies of scale. A solopreneur can be doing great today. If something happens, then they're not doing great tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's the same with multifamily. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you syndicating right now? Do you have any deals ready right now?
So we just completed a 40-unit syndication in Dayton. Just completed that. We've got a 460.
What was the equity raise on that?
875. So
And
it
total
was
purchase?
The purchase of the so this goes to you make your money on the buy, right? You make your money on the buy, and I've got business experience. I know what we're buying businesses when we're buying multifamily. You're buying a business when you buy an RV park.
Right.
You're not buying real estate. You're buying a business, and that business has net operating income. It's got a top line revenue. It's got net operating income. You've got expenses. You're buying a business. So this purchase was $2,050,000. Bought it for $52,000 a door. The price per square foot was $72 a square foot. The reproduction cost to build that same building today would be around $132 a foot. So we knew going in, we already had baked in equity. The reason that this deal came about is because it was upside down because of the property management company. So the P&L was a negative. They were putting CapEx above the NOI line, making this property look like it's just extraordinarily underperforming.
Right.
Me being a little bit better than I was a week ago with multifamily, you pick these things up, you underwrite them, and you underwrite them to what market. We know what the expense line items are on multifamily, like you do on RV parks. So you underwrite to those values, and it was a great purchase. It was a great buy, and that's why I felt confident and comfortable enough for this to be my first syndication. Did a 48-unit apartment complex before this one, and a 33-unit, of course. So the experience was there. I was my own guinea pig on the purchases. Before I would ever invite anyone else to come in and bet on me, I wanted to bet on myself and make sure that I could perform on things that I knew I could, but I had to prove it to myself. Not everyone can do that. It's not a. I'm proud that I was able to be my own guinea pig with other purchases and renovating these properties. But this 40 unit, we were confident and comfortable to bring in investors and let them enjoy the fruits that this property will bring. And
That's awesome.
but we bought it right. We bought it right on the, and it's a 1989. It's not old, it's not new, but it's a great vintage. It's a very good property.
So are you looking for your next one now?
Absolutely. Yeah. For every day, every day.
Sure.
And there's still, of course, seller sentiment. I think there's a mind shift that I need to go through again too, because I'm looking for these deals that really truly don't exist unless all of a sudden it pops up. Because every one of my purchases have been very, very good, fortunately. But you can't accumulate. I'm going to say, well, you can't grow. I'm not growing as fast as I know I could or want or would want to. Comfortable growth, unless I have a mind shift of maybe some things. Maybe I need to lessen my expectations on what the returns should be for today, and maybe underwrite that thing for what it looks like for 7 years, 10 years out, and see what that brings in. Because I'm looking, we all want short-term gains and instant gratification. I mean, if you say you're delayed gratification, that's your mantra, that's great. But at the same time, I think everyone enjoys instant gratification. Like if we can make a right purchase today and we already know we're winning, that's great. But if you can also take a property that might be selling for market, what market would dictate, what the market would pay, and then you can put rent bumps in, put different commodities, like maybe change the tennis court to pickleball and then charge that for outs. Just different things that I might not be looking for that might open up the doors. I'm checking out a 208 unit on Thursday, and that might be one of those scenarios. But the outlook for say 7 years is really incredible as long as the market plays out, and that's where past performance hopefully can dictate future results. But we're in the environment we're in, and I think we're always going to be in, is things are going to change, and you have to be able to pivot when those changes come to. Nobody knows what 7 years is going to look like.
Nope.
It's just what it is.
How do people get in touch with you if they say, I like what I'm hearing, I like his process of how he deals with properties? How do I invest with him? How do they reach out to you?
Applemangroup.com, APPELMAN group.com. I've got Real Estate Hustlers, YouTube, podcast. I like to pump out the content like you do, of course, let everyone know what we're doing. You can find me on LinkedIn, just my name, Josh Appleman. That's APPELMAN. And just schedule a call. We'll get on the phone, see if our goals align, see if our interests align. Not everyone's meant to be together, but it's a journey of life. That's the great thing about just meeting people and learning personalities.
Very good. All right. So I have one final question that I like to wrap up with, and I'm going to set it up for you. Okay. We're going to use our imagination. Let's imagine that this is the last podcast you're ever going to go on. As a matter of fact, this is the last time anybody's ever going to hear anything from you. What is Josh Appleman's message to the world?
I've got a picture hanging up on my wall. It's the Four Agreements. I don't know if anyone's ever read that book or listened to the book. Rule number 2 is don't take anything personally. I would tell, if you can conquer that, don't take anything personally from anyone. That's your superpower. You will do everything you want to do in life without anyone else affecting how you feel.
I like that. I'm going to put that into action in my life. Thank you, Josh, for coming on. I really appreciate you. This has been a great time. I encourage you to do it too.
Awesome.
Don't
Alex,
take it personally.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon. I appreciate your time and look forward to our next visit.
Thanks, Josh. From the High Performance Podcast, keep high performing.
Yes, sir. Thanks.